Galrath's station hung in space like a polished blade, silent, balanced, and ready to cut. From orbit, it resembled a dying star wrapped in rings of steel and light. Within its chambers, power hummed. Politics brewed like storm clouds over calm seas. Ambassador Elias Trent stepped through the docking gate, flanked by 2 Terran guards in understated dark armor. He was tall, lean, wearing a diplomatic black suit with silver trim. No medals, no ostentation, just the quiet sharpness of someone who had seen too much and forgotten none of it. A Drex child hissed at him as he passed, its mother pulling it back sharply. Elias didn't react. He'd seen worse than snarls. "Welcome to Galrath, Ambassador," said Administrator Pel Rulon, a 4-eyed Franee whose skin flickered with stress pulses. "We weren't expecting such a rapid arrival." "I wasn't expecting the assassination of a trade envoy, but here we are," Elias replied evenly. Rulon's mandibles twitched. "Let us hope diplomacy finds its footing before something worse occurs." Hope, Elias thought, was a currency in short supply out here. The summit chamber was a cold dome of steel and glass. Delegations sat in crescent rows, Core, Franee, Thulians, a few hesitant Arcanites. And at the far end, alone in arrogant stillness, the Drex Dominion. Warlord Varnak Threx sat like a mountain carved from bloodstone. His armor shimmered with ceremonial engravings, each a record of conquest. He didn't look at Elias as he entered. He didn't need to. Elias stood at the center of the chamber, placing a single data chip on the circular podium. "This," he began, "is a record of the last 6 Terran vessels harassed at the border by Drex patrols. None in your territory. No shots fired. No retaliation. Just silence. We brought it here because we still believe in negotiation." Varnak turned, lips peeling back to reveal jagged Drex teeth. "Human ships that come too close to fire learn not to test fire. Your restraint is weakness. Your presence here is amusing." Elias smiled thinly. "It's funny. Every species seems to mistake human patience for cowardice. Until they don't." A tense chuckle rippled from the Arcanite row. The other delegations remained quiet, watching. Hours later, Elias stared out from his quarters at the black void beyond the station's shields. He could see Galratha's planet spinning below, a dusty, mineral-rich husk, valuable only for what it offered to those who claimed it, which was, as of now, both the Terran Coalition and the Drex Dominion. His aide, Layla Voss, entered without knocking. Former naval intelligence, now the sharpest mind in his entourage. "Trent," she said, handing him a report. Security flagged a breach in Hangar 3. A Terran diplomat's transport was sabotaged. Minor explosive, just enough to get noticed. Casualties: 1 mechanic, Civi, dead. Elias's jaw tightened. "Let me guess, plasma trace matches Drex tech, but there's no footage, no witness, and someone's already trying to pin it on us." She nodded. "They want us to snap," he said, voice low. "They're trying to provoke a response, to paint us as aggressors. Drex play the long con, but they love triggering their wars with righteous fury." Elias sat. "Thought. So we don't snap. Not yet. We prove it. And if we can't, then we choose when and where we make noise. Not them." The next session was worse. The Drex delegation arrived late and made a performance of it. Varnak strode in with 5 armored guards, unarmed, technically, but bristling with menace. The chamber dimmed slightly as they took their seats. "Ambassador Trent," Varnak said, voice carrying across the room like falling stone. "Will you accuse us again today? Or simply whine until you're escorted out?" Elias rose, slow and deliberate. "No accusations. Just facts." He activated the projector. A 3D display filled the chamber. Ship logs, intercepted transmissions, sabotage site diagrams. Drex signature patterns glowed red across the models. "I don't need to accuse you, Warlord. The evidence speaks clearly." Varnak's eyes narrowed, reptilian slits glinting. "You play with shadows and pretend they're daggers." "Funny," Elias said. "I was thinking the same about you." The chamber remained silent, this time not out of respect, but fear. The line between diplomacy and war was fraying. Later that night, Layla found him in the observation deck, arms crossed behind his back. They're setting the board for something, she said. We found another anomaly. Sensor drones near the station are going dark. Someone's blindfolding us. Preparing a strike? Or a distraction? Either way, we're boxed in. Elias turned, eyes steeled. Tell Fleet Command. Quietly. I want 3 cruisers shadow-jumping to the system edge. Blackout protocols. No movement unless I give the word. Layla hesitated. That'll be seen as escalation. I know. That's why we don't move them. Just have them watch. She nodded. What's your play? He looked out at the stars, hands tightening behind his back. We don't blink. We don't flinch. We show them that humans don't fold under pressure. We load the gun, place it on the table, and wait. The next day, a neutral envoy from the Thulian Accord was found dead, airlock sabotage. No security footage. No witness. And yet somehow, a discarded Terran comtag lay suspiciously close to the scene. The council met in emergency session. Voices rose. Accusations flew. We cannot allow the Terran presence to destabilize this summit, said a Corps ambassador. Convenient, Elias said, cutting through the noise. A human-tagged device in a Drex-controlled hall? That's not evidence. That's stagecraft. Varnak stood. It is proof your species cannot be trusted. You claim peace, but your scent is treachery. Elias stepped forward, eyes locking on the Drex warlords. If we wanted war, warlord, this station would already be dust. The air shifted. Even Varnak paused. Elias didn't raise his voice. Didn't move. Just stood, unshaken, unblinking. We came to talk, he said. But if your goal is war, you should know, humans don't scare. We endure. We build. We learn. And when we strike, he stepped closer. We finish it. The conference room was built for intimidation. Circular walls of black stone, a ceiling that echoed even the smallest sound, and no windows. The council called it the Quiet Dome. Elias Trent called it a cage with good acoustics. He stood alone at one end of the long obsidian table. Across from him, Warlord Varnak Threx loomed like a monolith, his red ceremonial armor catching the low light like blood on steel. No guards. No translators. Just them. The others, Varnak said, voice deep and guttural, hide behind protocol. You come to face me alone. Elias folded his hands. I don't need an army to speak the truth. Varnak bared his teeth in something between a grin and a threat. That is either bravery or stupidity. I find the line between the two often depends on whether you survive the conversation. For a long moment, they simply watched each other. Neither blinked. Neither moved. I've studied your kind, Varnak said finally. So fragile. Skin soft. Bones light. And yet you climb, conquer, build. You do not belong among predators. Yet here you are, gnashing your teeth. Elias tilted his head. We didn't come to gnash. We came to reason. Varnak leaned forward, eyes gleaming. Reason is for equals. Are you my equal, Terran? Let's find out. Earlier, in Elias's temporary office, Layla Voss tapped a glowing hollow screen, fingers moving fast. There's something wrong with the station's data core, she said. Packets are being rerouted through Drex channels. Clean, elegant hacks. Definitely military grade. How long's it been going on? Elias asked, scanning the projections. Days. Maybe weeks. They're watching council communications, probably rewriting select feeds. They could have planted the comtag that framed us before the envoy even docked. Elias leaned over the table. Can you isolate the back door? I can trace it, but if I cut it off, they'll know we're onto them. He nodded. Then don't cut it. Feed it. Layla raised an eyebrow. Fake intel. Let's give them a reason to feel confident. Back in the quiet dome, Elias dropped a data slab onto the table. It slid across the polished surface and stopped at Varnak's clawed fingers. Trade route adjustments, Elias said. Human ships will pull from the Galrath perimeter. 10% shift. Non-military zones. You'll have room to flex, show strength. On paper, it's a concession. Varnak tapped the slab. And off paper? You'll have nothing. Just more empty space to growl at. But it will look like victory to your council. Why offer it? Varnak asked, narrowing his gaze. Do you fear me that much? I offer it, Elias said, because I'd rather bury you in diplomacy than in orbit. The Drex warlord let out a low chuckle. Your tongue is sharp for a species that bleeds easily. Elias didn't smile. We've bled before. Ask the Malorans. Ask the Briku. Ask anyone who thought we were soft until the ground burned beneath them. Varnak went silent. The memory of Terran retaliation echoed across more than one quadrant. You don't want a war with Earth, Elias said. Not because we're stronger, but because we're relentless. You kill 10 of us, we build a monument, send 1,000 more. Varnak stood. Then perhaps I should test this myth. See if Terran blood truly flows forever. Hours later, the body was found. Zektal, the Thulian liaison and respected peace advocate, floated lifeless in the station's med bay. A precision blade had been slipped between his thoracic plates. No signs of struggle. No alarm. And worst, no entry log. Station-wide lockdowns followed. Tempers boiled. The council chamber became a battlefield of whispers. He was going to support the human motion, Administrator Rulon said, staring at Elias with haunted eyes. Now the vote is in doubt. Elias said nothing. Layla appeared beside him, face pale. The death was professional. Surgical. Nothing sloppy, no forensic trail. But get this, someone left a Drex ritual blade behind. Display piece. Almost too clean. They're baiting us again, Elias said quietly. Layla nodded. Or covering something. Either way, the Thulians are pulling their support. We're bleeding allies fast. That evening, Elias stood in the Arboretum Dome, where faux gravity let Terran soil float in hanging planters. Stars spun silently overhead. A core diplomat passed him, eyes cold. They think we've lost control, Layla said, approaching. They're wrong, Elias replied. We never had control to begin with. We had a thread, and the Drex are sawing through it. She hesitated. Then maybe it's time to cut them back. He looked at her, weary but clear-eyed. Not yet. Why not? Because if we make the first move, we become what they say we are. A threat. Layla frowned. And if they kill another envoy? Elias exhaled slowly. Then we make the last move. Later that night, Elias returned to the quiet dome. Alone again. This time, Varnak was already waiting. You smell like desperation, the warlord said. You smell like someone who's used to winning, Elias replied. I am. That's a weakness. Varnak stepped forward. I do not fear your fleet, Terran. I don't need you to fear us, Elias said. I need you to understand what happens if you make the wrong decision. The room seemed to shrink. The weight of unspoken war pressed in from every corner. Your path leads to ruin, Elias said flatly. You think strength is dominance. You're wrong. Real strength is knowing when to pull back the spear. Varnak studied him for a long, dangerous moment. Then he smiled. I look forward to seeing what you do, when the spear is already in flight. Outside Galratha's atmosphere, the hidden Terran cruisers moved silently into deeper position. Cloaked signatures, silent engines, weapons idle but primed. They weren't there to strike. Not yet. They were there to prove a point. And Elias Trent was about to make it. The alarm started mid-cycle. No sirens, just a sharp shift in lighting and a flicker of red on the wall panels. Galrath Station had entered silent lockdown. Every corridor sealed. Every comm channel filtered. Elias Trent was already on his feet before the notice reached his console. Something's happened, Layla said, bursting into his quarters, eyes scanning her wrist pad. Security net shows weapons fire in docking section C. Close quarters. Unidentified hostiles. Terran? Elias asked sharply. Too early to say. But the Drex delegation is sealed off, and still untouched. That told him plenty. Council security footage played across the command wall in the observation hall. The assembled delegates stared at the display, faces tense, some whispering, others unmoving. A team of masked assailants in sleek black armor moved with purpose. Neutral colors, but Terran-style tactics. Clean shots, disabling strikes, military training. They breached a diplomatic suite, took down 4 guards, and disappeared through a ventilation hatch. No casualties, but a very clear message. The footage ended. The silence was instant. "The armor configuration is Terran," said one of the Corps, his segmented brow furrowed. "And the assault pattern matches Earth's Marine Corps doctrine." "That's not us," Elias said calmly. "Too obvious. Too fast. We don't do theatrics." Varnak rose from his seat. "Is that your excuse now? Sabotage, murder, infiltration, and now you pretend to be the victim." "I don't need to pretend," Elias replied. "Your fingerprints are on everything, but you've wrapped them in gloves you think we won't see through." The room trembled, figuratively and literally. Something had just come out of hyperspace. Elias didn't need confirmation. He turned to Layla, who was already pale. "Ping just lit up," she whispered. "One of ours. Destroyer class. Emergency drop. Distress beacon active." He frowned. "Where?" "Galratha's orbit." They were ambushed. The TCS Santiago limped into view from the command bay screen. Hull scorched, half its bow venting atmosphere. No other ships in sight. One voice crackled over a secure line. "This is Commander Delaney. We were conducting perimeter recon. Ambushed by cloaked craft. Drex design, but no ident beacons. Stealth shielding. They knew where we'd be. We're holding position. Awaiting orders." The transmission cut. Elias turned to the council. "Now we're past games." Varnak didn't blink. "You sent ships outside your allowed range. That's an act of escalation." "We sent scouts," Elias said, "to protect our delegation. Now one's burning, and your ships just happen to be hiding in empty space." The chamber filled with noise, debates, accusations, demands. The council fracturing in real time. Elias didn't wait for consensus. He left. In the corridor outside, he moved fast, Layla matching his pace. "Pull the cruisers in system," Elias said. "Blackout protocols are over. Activate shield overlays. I want them fully visible in 20 minutes. She stopped. "That's going to read as a show of force." "That's the point." Layla didn't argue. She activated her pad and relayed the command. Back in his private suite, Elias accessed the encrypted comms relay. A face appeared, Admiral Sanaa Greaves, Terran Home Command. "Status?" she asked, skipping greetings. "Collapsed summit, compromised station, incoming war," Elias replied. "I'm authorizing Red Edge protocol." Sanaa's jaw clenched. "Understood. Fleet's already on alert. How long do we have?" "Until Varnak decides the pretense isn't worth the effort." She paused. "If they fire on that station." "They won't. Not yet. He wants us to break first. And if he's wrong?" Elias's voice dropped. "Then we end it fast. Clean." The line cut. He sat for a moment, breathing, thinking. Then he stood and went back to face the storm. The summit reconvened under duress. Armed guards now lined the chamber. There were no more smiles. No pleasantries. Elias entered last, datapad in hand. He walked straight to the center. "The Terran Coalition no longer accepts this summit as legitimate," he said. "Too many games. Too many bodies. Too many lies." A ripple spread through the room. "We've been patient. We've shown restraint. You mistook that for hesitation." Varnak stood. "Are you declaring war?" Elias didn't answer him. Not directly. He turned to the delegates. "Let me be clear to the rest of you. The Drex orchestrated this collapse. They sabotaged peace. They engineered assassinations, hacked systems, and staged attacks using stolen Terran tactics to fracture this body." He held up the datapad. "This contains traceback signatures recovered from the Santiago's assault, Drex AI patterns, cloaking modulation unique to their fleet. No other species matches the profile." Varnak growled. Forgery. Elias stepped forward. You can deny facts. But look outside. The chamber lights dimmed. A projection screen unfolded behind Elias. Space filled the room. 3 Terran battlecruisers hovered just above Galratha's orbital plane. Visible, deliberate, monstrous. Hulls gleamed black-blue, shaped like thunderheads, weapon ports humming. A collective intake of breath passed through the council. We didn't come here for war, Elias said, voice quiet now. But we didn't come here to beg either. If the Drex want a show of strength, this is only the preview. The projection faded. Silence. Make your choice, Elias said, eyes fixed on Varnak. Continue this farce, or admit what you came here to do. Varnak's claws flexed once, then fell to his side. This meeting is over, the warlord said, turning sharply and exiting. Elias watched him go. Layla appeared beside him. That wasn't surrender. No, Elias agreed. It was planning. Hours later, Elias stood alone in the viewing gallery. The battlecruisers held position like gods just outside reach. He sipped cold tea, untouched until now. Layla entered behind him. The council split, she said. Some want to declare formal sanctions against the Drex. Others are backing away from everything. They're afraid. Should we be? Elias turned to her. We're ready. Doesn't mean we want it. She hesitated. Do we have your final order? Elias looked back at the stars. No strikes. Not yet. Let Varnak make the next move. He set the tea down. But if he does, he won't get a third. Not physically. Temperature controls kept Galrath Station at a standard Terran baseline, but the air itself had changed. The usual diplomatic small talk was gone. Delegates sat with stiff backs, silent and waiting, their species-specific tells all broadcasting the same thing. Anticipation, laced with dread. Elias Trent stood before the central platform, a single slim data slab in his hand. He wasn't speaking yet. He was watching, measuring. Opposite him, Warlord Varnak Threk sat coiled in a deep-backed Drex throne, claws resting on the armrests like blades sheathed in flesh. No guards this time. He didn't need them. Everyone in the room understood this was no longer a debate. This was a declaration waiting for a spark. Warlord Threx, Elias said at last, voice quiet, calm, carrying despite the stillness. You requested this final session. So here we are. Speak. Varnak rose, slow and deliberate, like an avalanche beginning to shift. I offered you a way out, he said. A path where you could preserve your pride. Leave Galrath. Withdraw your fleets. Fade back into the safe corners of the galaxy where your species belongs. Elias didn't flinch. And in return? Survival. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. You assume, Elias replied, stepping forward, that we need your permission to exist. That our silence means submission. That our preference for peace means we cannot fight. He paused, letting the words settle. You are wrong. Varnak bared his teeth. You talk of restraint as if it is power. Restraint is the language of the weak. And I have grown tired of your words. Elias dropped the data slab onto the floor. It clattered once, echoed, then stilled. No more words then, Elias said. You want clarity? You'll have it. He turned to the delegates. We offered evidence. Proof of Drex interference. Proof of sabotage. You doubted. Fine. But we will not be sacrificed to preserve your neutrality. He faced Varnak again, jaw tight. You want war. The room froze. Elias stepped forward, each word precise, sharp as a scalpel. You want war? We'll bring it. The sentence hit harder than any weapon. No shouts followed. No denials. Just silence, the kind that follows a truth spoken too clearly to ignore. Then, without warning, the wall behind Elias faded to transparency. Galratha's orbit came into full view. And there they were. Terran ships. Dozens. No longer cloaked. No longer distant. From nimble corvettes to planet killers, the United Terran Coalition's fleet now encircled the station in a net of black iron and pale blue light. Their hulls bore no insignia. No banners. Just quiet, focused intent. Delegates leaned forward. Some gasped. Others went rigid. Not because of size, though the ships were massive. Not because of firepower, though that too was undeniable. But because of the restraint. No threats. No weapons charged. They were simply there. Watching. Waiting. Prepared. Varnak's expression flickered, just briefly, and Elias caught it. Uncertainty. That was the first crack. You think this display frightens me? Varnak barked, rising fully now. You reveal your hand, and expect me to fold? Elias didn't blink. No. I expect you to understand. He walked slowly toward the warlord, each step measured, voice steady. Understand that we did not come to show dominance. We came to avoid this. But make no mistake, this was prepared long before your blade touched Thulian skin. While you mocked our silence, we were positioning. While you blustered, we built. While you played at war, we practiced it. He stopped just short of the dais. You misjudged us. The chamber lights dimmed again. New projections lit the space. Battle records, simulations, real-time fleet movements. The Santiago's telemetry. Orbital scans of Drex deployments intercepted by Terran intelligence. Precise, relentless, unforgiving data. We know your fleet positions. We know your supply lines. We've already identified your weaknesses. And we've prepared contingency paths for each of your counterattacks. Elias turned back to the room. This is not a threat. This is clarity. You choose war, we end it. Quickly. A long pause. Then, for the first time, Administrator Rulon stood. The Frani Council acknowledges the evidence, Rulon said, and we will not support the Drex declaration of conflict. Others followed. Quiet affirmations. Shaky but present. A slow wave of understanding moving across the chamber. Varnak snarled. You choose the humans? Cowards with oversized toys and soft bellies. Rulon met his eyes. We choose stability, and you have broken it. The chamber shifted. Subtle. Irreversible. Elias turned to Varnak one last time. This isn't about pride anymore. It's about consequences. Leave Galrath. Now. You walk away, we all walk away. For a long, heavy moment, Varnak said nothing. Then he stepped down from his platform. He moved slowly to the chamber exit, each footstep heavy, deliberate. No rage. No fight. Just silence. He stopped at the threshold. Glanced back. This isn't over. Elias nodded. It never is. Varnak left. No applause followed. Just the quiet weight of history shifting. Later, Elias stood on the station's upper deck, watching the fleet realign. Ships peeled off in perfect arcs, disappearing into the void. Layla joined him, leaning on the rail beside him. He walked, she said softly. He did, Elias replied. You didn't fire a shot. I didn't need to. She studied his face. You think he'll stay gone? No, Elias said. But next time, it won't be a summit. She nodded. He underestimated us. Elias's voice was distant now, but clear. Most do. Galratha's Starscape was quiet again. The fleet had begun its slow withdrawal, engines glowing faint in the void. No war had started. Not yet. But no one on the station moved as if peace had truly returned. Elias Trent stood at the edge of the viewing deck, alone now. The transparent wall stretched before him like a cathedral window, and through it, the Terran cruisers were dots of fading blue light, retreating, but not gone. A hiss of the door broke the silence. Layla entered, eyes a little softer than usual. Council adjourned for the cycle. No votes, no protests. Just silence. Good, Elias said, not turning. They're waiting. They always are. She stepped beside him, watching the same view. You ended it. With a sentence. No, he replied. I ended the illusion that we were bluffing. That's what he feared. Not the ships. The resolve. Layla gave a faint smile. You realize that line's already viral, right? Every comm feed's quoting you. Elias raised an eyebrow. You want war? We'll bring it? That one, she confirmed. Already carved into a few tattoos, apparently. He exhaled once. I didn't say it for applause. You didn't have to. Down in the central concourse, technicians and diplomats moved through the corridors with a careful energy. No one shouted. No one ran. It was a space reclaimed, but not yet comfortable. Administrator Pel Roulan approached Elias with his usual twitch of mandibles. The council wishes to express formal acknowledgement, Roulan said. Of your restraint. Elias smiled thinly. Diplomacy is easy when no one's dying. Then perhaps you should teach the rest of us. A pause. The Franny's 4 eyes blinked in slow sequence. And the Drex? Gone, Elias said. But not for good. They always return. We'll be ready. Back in his quarters, Elias reviewed the last set of decrypted logs from the Santiago. Layla sat nearby, silent, observing. 3 Drex ships, she said, reading over his shoulder. Cloaked. Coordinated movement. They were never random patrols. That wasn't a probe, it was a rehearsal. Elias nodded. They wanted to see if we'd panic. Or if we'd strike too early. They were testing your limits. No, he corrected. They were testing our discipline. Layla leaned back. Most nations would have launched after the first death. That's the thing about humans, Elias said. We don't strike first. But when we do, we don't stop. He closed the file and sat back. We proved that. By the end of the cycle, the diplomatic sector of Galrath was operational again. Envoys resumed talks. Minor trade agreements were revisited. Even the Thulian Accord quietly reopened negotiations with the Terran bloc. Not because they trusted humans more, but because they feared them less. Elias walked the station's promenade that evening without guards. His jacket was simple now. No rank badges, no insignia. Just a man among many. A young Arcanite approached him, holding a data slab. You're Elias Trent, the child said, awe in their voice. Elias stopped. I am. You said the thing. The war line. Everyone's heard it. He nodded once. Yes. The Arcanite hesitated. Were you scared? Elias knelt, leveling his gaze. Yes. But I didn't let fear decide what I said. Why not? Because fear makes people destroy things. Words can stop that, if you mean them. The Arcanite considered that, then nodded and ran off. Elias watched them go. Later, in the station's upper comms tower, Admiral Sanaa Greaves's face flickered into view again. The Council reviewed your actions. There's pressure to elevate your status. Possibly a permanent seat. Elias shook his head. No. You could help shape the whole quadrant. I came to prevent a war. I'm not interested in political thrones. Greaves studied him. You sure? I'm sure. She didn't argue. One more thing, she said. Varnak hasn't sent any transmissions. Not even internal logs from his flagship. Total radio silence. Elias narrowed his eyes. He's stewing. Regrouping. He won't forget this. Neither will we. Greaves paused, then offered a rare smile. Good work, Elias. The call ended. As the final shift of station personnel rotated in for the next cycle, Elias stood one last time at the viewport. Layla joined him again, this time with 2 mugs of black tea. She handed him one. He sipped it without a word. She waited, then said, Do you think the peace will hold? No. She nodded. Didn't think so. But it'll last long enough, he said. Long enough for them to remember the price of pushing us. Outside, the last of the Terran cruisers blinked into slipstream, streaks of light vanishing into the dark. Elias watched until the last glimmer was gone. He spoke softly. We came to talk. They forced us to prepare. But next time. He turned, setting the mug down. They'll listen.